Okay, so in this video I hope to be able to show you a good way to diagnose whether or not you're getting flow from the meth injection through the flow valve using an oscilloscope and a power probe to power the meth injection system, and using the oscilloscope to watch to see whether or not we're getting flow through the flow sensor. First thing I do is on the boost control valve, I installed a jumper to the terminal that has got power. Hang on, I gotta put the camera down. And now, instead of jumping the terminals across the boost switch, I just ground it. And when I ground it, you can hear the pump running. So I know that I've got activation of the boost circuit, which powers the pump. Now, over in the ECU box, we have the wires coming from the flow sensor. There's 3 wires. A red wire, a black wire, and a yellow wire. The yellow wire is the signal output from the Hall effect sensor on the flow valve. The red wire has power to power the sensor, and the black is the ground. The oscilloscope is hooked up to the yellow wire and the black wire for a ground. The third wire that comes from the solenoid is the solenoid activation wire that the Procede uses to apply the pulse width the signal to the solenoid to turn it on and off. Basically what I'm going to do is power the solenoid on constantly in order to look at the signal coming out of the flow sensor. So I've got the power probe hooked up, and I've got my wire hooked up to the boost control solenoid. So while I am grounding the boost control solenoid, I will ground the wire going to the solenoid. And you can hear how it changes. I don't know if you can hear it, but and I'm definitely getting meth flow. If I were to look at the clear tubing on the intake, I would see meth flow. But more importantly, I want to show you the oscilloscope reading. So if I ground this terminal, pump's running. I look at the oscilloscope, see how I get a nice pulse width coming from the sensor. That tells me that the sensor is working, that it's sensing meth flow, and that all of that part of the circuit is operational. What we're having a problem with on this car is that the data logs show that the computer is applying the pulse width modulated signal to the solenoid, but there's no signal coming back from the flow sensor. So my thought is that the 2 wires that are pulled out of the connectors in one of the installation steps are hooked up wrong, that the signal wire from the flow sensor is hooked to the signal that is supposed to be going to the solenoid, and the solenoid wire is hooked to the signal wire that's supposed to be hooked to the sensor. So what I'm going to try doing is pulling the shrink wrap up, switch the connector, and then take the car for a test drive and see if we get meth activation and we get meth flow. So that's it.